His name is Kurt Johnson, an heir to the S.C. Johnson family fortune. His cut, $3 billion. But now this rich guy is also a convicted child molester who sexually abused his own stepdaughter. His sentence, just 4 months behind bars. The Journal-Times was in court for the hearing.
One of the heirs to a billion-dollar cleaning products empire, billionaire Kurt Johnson, admits to molesting his young stepdaughter, but he's let off with what critics are screaming is a slap on the wrist.
S.C. Johnson calls itself a family company. Now one of those family members is in big trouble. 55-year-old Samuel Curtis Johnson was arrested after police say he sexually assaulted a teenage girl he knows about 15 to 20 times over a 3-year period.
This was not a one-time event. This contact occurred on a number of occasions. This was not a one-time, I'm sorry, I'll never do it again situation.
I'd like to deeply apologize to my stepdaughter and my wife, Tracy, for the tremendous hurt that I've caused.
Maximum penalty for the original accusations against him could have, according to published reports, been up to 40 years behind bars. 40 years. Instead, he got 4 months. He's up for parole after 60 days. He does not have to register as a sex offender.
I do not like this. And having money is a shut up card because it gets everybody to shut up.
All right, so how do you go from 40 years down to 4 months? Well, it goes because the charges, the final charges in the deal that was struck here was for 2 misdemeanors. All right, the maximum he could have faced under these 2 misdemeanors was a year. Ends up, getting months instead of the full year. But the bottom line is much less than 40 years. So how does all of this happen? Well, the first thing I want to do is let's take a listen to Kurt Johnson, the man who was convicted, the man who molested his stepdaughter, apologize in court.
Yes, Your Honor, thank you. I'd like to deeply apologize to my stepdaughter and my wife, Tracy, for the tremendous hurt that I've caused. And I would also like to thank God for walking closely with me through these trials and for helping me become a better person.
All right, so who's to blame here? You point the finger at the judge? You can't point the finger at the judge because the deal was struck for 2 misdemeanors. You're going to point the finger at the prosecutor for downgrading and striking this deal? Well, here's the problem the prosecution had. The victim, the victim's mother, the victim's biological father, none of them cooperating with prosecutors in this case. So prosecutors were handcuffed as well. Let's bring in the dream team to talk about this. All right, let's start here, Joey. You're a former prosecutor.
Yes, I am.
Sometimes, especially when it comes to domestic violence and sex assault cases, you need the victim to cooperate, and when that cooperation isn't coming, your hands are tied.
I am not buying it. I think the prosecution has many options. Those options have been used against me as a defense attorney multiple times, and here's what they are. Oftentimes, when you're a victim of domestic violence or sex abuse, you recently outcry. What does that mean in English? You're abused. You go to a friend, you say, I can't believe it. My stepfather did this. Something happened to me. Those witnesses could be extraordinarily critical in any prosecution. A parent, a step-parent, a cousin,
the parents aren't cooperating. The biological parents of the child.
You can get other people. You can get medical records. In the event those medical records are not handed over, you can get an adverse inference. In English, that means the fact that they're not handed over could be used against you as culpability, as inducing and meaning that you're guilty. I don't buy it. He got out of it, and I also blame the judge.
But it's the only way
I blame the judge too.
The only way they found out about this was when he went for counseling, and there was some comment that he made that the doctor, the counselor, had to mandatory report what he said. But then when it came down to additional records, they fought that, probably most likely under HIPAA, that kind of thing.
Exactly.
So that's the reason we are where we are now.
Amanda, it's a risk, though, if you're a prosecutor and you want to get a conviction, because if this guy is, you want him to have a record at the end of the day.
Well, I don't believe in aggressively pursuing the parents or the victim. But there's nothing stopping the prosecutor from talking to the parents and subpoenaing them to testify at the time of trial. At least use it as a tool. But they did nothing. They gave him 4 months. His fame, his name, his money, in my opinion, led the day.
It absolutely did. In addition to that, the judge did not give him the maximum. How do you get 4 months when the judge could have given him a year? Now, I think a year is woefully unacceptable.
Yeah,
I think he should
when
be
we're talking about a year and
prosecuted as a
4 months,
felony.
there's no difference. 4 years is what we're talking about.
It's a big difference. He got 4 months instead of the full year.
Kurt Johnson sat silently in court as he learned his fate. His family sat behind him. He agreed to plead guilty to 2 misdemeanors, sexual assault and disorderly conduct, but he won't have to register as a sex offender. He told the judge he deeply apologizes to the victim for the hurt he's caused.
But that victim not cooperating, the victim's mother not cooperating, his wife, the defendant's wife, and the biological father of the victim not cooperating either. And there were some records they had to get, and it turned the case into a complete mess for prosecutors. But here's the thing that I have a problem with what the prosecution did. A strange, bizarre statement made during the sentencing phase because, all right, this is a guy, Kurt Johnson, billions of dollars, okay? You're talking about billions of dollars, and the prosecutor in some strange way tried to use that against him for molesting a 12-year-old girl. Take a listen. Take a close listen.
The fact that the defendant could literally have gone anywhere in the world at any time to satisfy his sexual desires is pretty clear. And the fact that he decided to satisfy those desires, and I'll call them selfish, to do so in his own home, to violate the trust of his family, his stepdaughter, and his wife is extremely aggravated.
All right. I hope he just got a little mixed up there. I hope he's not advocating that grown men fly around the world to sleep with 12-year-old girls. Right? Amanda, was it just me, or was that strange or awkwardly stated?
It appears that way.
Yeah.
It definitely appeared that way, and it's frustrating because you listen to him talk as if he's the defense attorney, and he's trying to explain away his conduct. It's mind-boggling to me how we as society can sit there and accept this, but more importantly, why didn't they request the maximum penalty? Why isn't he going to register as a sex offender? I don't understand the plea deal. I just don't understand it.
I understand it. He had a lot of money, and as a result of that, he's treated differently than anybody else.
Treated differently by whom, though?
He's treated differently by the process. There have been multiple cases, and I have tried cases, Vinny, and I've represented clients who had the book
You're not
thrown at them.
indicating that a judge or a prosecutor is impressed by the money of a criminal defendant.
I'm indicating that a person with $1 billion or not should be prosecuted at a felon, and don't tell me that they didn't have a strong case here. You cull together witnesses who can come forward in the absence of cooperation.
Who do you have? You don't have the victim.
You have outcries. You have people who victims outcry to. People who have this happen to them don't keep it to themselves. They tell friends. They tell cousins. They tell family members. It's up to the prosecutor to investigate, to determine who, so that he should be in jail like anybody
Where's
who
the
does
incentive for a
crime.
prosecutor, though? There's no incentive. A prosecutor gets paid when a prosecutor gets paid.
They get paid to do justice. They get paid to
What
treat
about
everybody
What about the
equally.
biological dad? If I was the father of that little girl, I'd be over there wanting to put my hands around his neck.
He wasn't cooperating either.
I know.
Join the conversation about Kurt Johnson's sentencing on our Facebook page. Give us a like and then fire away. A very spirited debate going on, just like it is here in the studio.